I did it. Hello, everybody. Sorry for the late start. We had technical difficulties. So Facebook keeps trying this new producer thing that they're doing, trying to make, I don't know what, with their Facebook Lives. And like I fill out all of the things and then go live is grayed out for reasons that surpass understanding. And so I have to like go and I have to like do all the things before it'll let me like hit go live, and then I have to go back to the new one. So anyway, it's all good, man. We are here. We are talking about a whole bunch of things today. So today is Science Saturday. I feel like my conversation about immunology and everything went over so well last week that I'm going to do more science, okay? Because one, I love science. We call me Dr. Fansteel for a reason, and I think that there are ways that we can bring science into the public discourse, okay? Because here's the thing, is that there are lots of outlets out there and lots of people talking who don't have a great deal of science education. And there are lots of people out there talking who have particular viewpoints and that sort of thing. And here's the deal. I'm a veterinarian. I have been studying infectious disease for a really long time now. I have been approaching infectious disease from a One Health standpoint, all right, and One Health is the idea that our environment, our people, and our animals are all one health, okay? So I'm probably going to do that on a Science Saturday. But I think it's really important to have these conversations because there is a lot of things going on out there, and I'm going to put my public health hat on, and I'm going to talk about what kind of all of this stuff means, all right? Because we're seeing people actually protest and gather in large groups, protesting to get the economy open. And I am going to post some science so that you can come to your own conclusions about whether or not that's a good idea, okay? So that's Science Saturday, and then we have a very special guest who is joining us, and we are going to be talking about relationships and feelings, and I'm going to demonstrate to people how I actually do this stuff and apply all of these tools that I've been teaching you all week in my everyday life. All right, so welcome everybody. I like your little emoji, David. Welcome. I hope you're doing okay. Oh, and then the other thing that I want to put out there is that I got a kind of like smack on the head moment. If you are in business, okay, or you know somebody who is in business, I think I'm going to do a marketing basics course, and I think it's probably going to be free, okay, and it's going to be a basic email marketing course, okay, and it's gonna be aimed at a pretty broad audience, and so if that interests you, just let me know. And it's designed at people whose traditional marketing channels have like completely evaporated, and you need to either go from B2B or business to business to B2C, and reach your consumers directly, or you are a B2C business and you need to reach your consumers more effectively and communicate more effectively to them. Okay, so I think that's probably coming up. I had the idea like an hour ago when I was talking with somebody, and so let me know if that would be helpful, okay, especially at a free price point, because I'm fine doing free stuff, because I know, honestly, folks, that it eventually ends up in people booking business with me, so think about that when you think about marketing. All right, so let us talk about today's topic, herd immunity. All right, now the thing to keep in mind, all right, is we are talking about population medicine. All right, and populations are, well, yes, they are the sum total of the people who live in a given area. Much like the plural of anecdote is not data, the plural of I know a couple of people who got sick is not population medicine. Okay, so I just want you to keep that in mind. Last week we talked about populations of cells and things like that. We're talking huge numbers, okay? We are really, really talking huge numbers, okay? And so it's not, we're not talking about 10, we're talking about, like orders of magnitude bigger than that, all right? So I want you to, scale back just a little bit for a much, much, much broader view. Okay? So that is what we are talking about in herd immunity. Your veterinarians, okay, that you know, we are literally subject matter experts in herd immunity, because what do we treat? We treat herds, okay? Herds of cattle, pigs, flocks of chickens, all of that sort of stuff. That's how we learn all of this sort of stuff. And for some context, we kill 8 billion with a B chickens in the United States in the commodity food stream. Okay, 8 billion with a B. There are 331 million people in the United States. Okay, so that's like 20 chickens per person. Okay, it's an order. We kill an order of magnitude more chickens in America in a year than we have people. All right, that's the level of herd health that veterinarians do. Okay, and this is true all over the world. And for some context, you know, before we were talking about coronavirus, we were talking about African swine fever. They killed in China more hogs than we raise in the United States. Okay, so in the fall, in one 3-month period, they killed more hogs than we raise in a year in the United States. Okay, so if you think about that, that is a literally metric tons of animals. That's the size that we are talking about. So we're not talking about your town. We are talking about huge populations. Okay, so here's what I want you guys to think about. I know there is a lot of information on here. Okay, I know you also have a brain, and I am going to treat you like you have a brain. Okay, so please, for the love of God, put your brain on, and if you have questions, as Lauren posted here, posted some questions in the comments. Lauren, I do not see your questions, so if I will try and find them. I am not in the proofing box right now. I'm on my Dirigo food safety page. I'm not 100% sure how to get to my proofing box page, so I will try and figure that out, and I will go back and I will go and try and find your questions. It's going to take me a second, okay? All right, so here's the question, all right, and I will get to coronavirus, but I want to start with some other viruses first, okay? So the question we're going to answer is, how many get infected? All right, and we have good ways of measuring this, okay? How many get infected? So here's what I want to walk you through. We have a variety of diseases. As you are well aware, coronavirus is not the first disease to hit human populations. Diseases, all right, all have hosts, okay? And the host is the animal within which that disease will reproduce, okay? So, for example, for all my farmer friends out there, I talk about this a lot. Trichinosis, all right, is a worm that multiplies in pigs and does not multiply in humans, but makes humans sick, all right? This host here, this is a host where the disease multiplies, and that's incredibly important, okay? Because it has to be able to multiply and make other people sick, all right? So we have diseases, we even have vaccine-preventable diseases that multiply in people that people can't make other people sick with, all right? And one of those diseases is tetanus. If you step on a rusty nail, no matter how much you vomit or cough or have diarrhea on somebody, you cannot give them tetanus. And it is a vaccine-preventable disease, okay? So there are lots of moving parts here, and I totally get it can be a little confusing. These are all vaccine-preventable diseases, and that's very important to know, because the R0, which I'm going to get to in just a second, for tetanus is 0, all right? And we're going to talk about what R0 means, all right? So all diseases have hosts, and hosts are defined as animals or humans where the disease can replicate and be transmitted, all right? And there are different propensities for diseases. Like, for example, when England was going through foot and mouth disease back in 2001, the cattle all ruminants are hosts for foot and mouth disease. but not everything gets sick in the same way. So goats get very mild foot-and-mouth disease, but they replicate the disease and spread it by coughing. Like, so far, it almost hit France. Like, because the virus itself is really, really small. But the goats coughing on the southern coast of England almost sent the disease through kind of like the jet stream as it goes up and over and down over to France. All right, so the host has to be able to replicate and spread the virus. And then this gets us to the R0. Now, for those of us who study this, the pop-up of R0 in our news feeds is kind of crazy. Okay, we're like, wow, people are really talking about R0, and boy, are they talking about it really, really wrong. R0 is absent any other things, absent any vaccinations, absent any other interventions. How many people are going to get sick? How many other animals are going to get sick? Okay, and so this is how we read this, all right? And then we're going to go. To this final column. Okay, so lots of vaccine preventable diseases here, and I had human diseases and non-human primate diseases and a bunch of other things, and I got dogs and cats just to give you some, what's it called? Context. I'm live. What do you need?
Whipped cream.
Sure. Okay, so we're making profiteroles today. All right, so mumps. If everybody is familiar with mumps, it's one of the vaccines. You get it. It's a paramyxovirus, and it causes like huge. It replicates in lymph nodes and things like that. Causes sterility in men. And it has a human host. It's vaccine preventable. And it has an R0 of between 10 and 12, all right? So that means one person who has mumps, absent any other things going on, will infect 10 to 12 people, okay? Then those 10 to 12 people will infect another 10 to 12 people, okay? So you'll notice this can be very big, okay? So if one person infects 10 people, and then that one person infects 10 people, that is exponential growth, right? Because next thing you know, you have 100 people, and each one of those people is infecting another 10 people. Okay, so I want you to think, this is why we talk about population. So that's mumps, okay? Then the herd immunity limit, okay, is the number of people that have to be immune. Margaret, stop. The number of people who have to be immune, okay, in order for this to go below 1, all right? Because if R0 goes below 1, it's not infectious. If I have an infection and the R0 for mumps is below 1, well then, I don't infect anybody because we've instituted barriers to me infecting you. We call that barrier vaccination. All right, so the herd immunity limit at 10 to 12 is you have to have 95% of the population have some sort of barrier in order for this R0 not to happen. Okay? And we calculate that with this formula here. All right? So your R0 minus 1 divided by your R0. Okay? So if your R0 is 4, yes, go use that.
The ganache.
Yeah, honey, I'm in the middle of a live. We'll take care of it, I promise. Okay? So if you have a R0 of 4, okay, so one animal makes 4 other animals sick. All right? You subtract 1 from that to get 3, and then you divide it by the R0, so 3 out of 4. You need 75% of the population to have some sort of barrier to that infection to keep everybody from getting infected, okay? So that is the herd immunity limit, all right? So let's go through this chart. Measles, all right, measles is a super infectious disease. I have seen people who have who have measles, and they have more than just the pox on their body. Measles causes pustules and things on their body. They have an inflammation of the lining of their brain, and measles encephalitis, because it causes your brain, it causes both a meningitis and an encephalitis. Okay, measles is infectious to all primates, human and non-human primates. These are morbilliviruses, all right? And one person with measles will give the next 12 to 18 people measles. So that means we have to have barriers to keep measles out of our population between 97 and 99%, okay? If we look at influenza, which a lot of people are comparing coronavirus to influenza, in this case, these numbers are for humans. I will tell you, in the past week, we did get highly pathogenic avian influenza in a turkey flock, and the veterinarians are super excited about that, said no one ever. So influenza viruses, these are zoonotic diseases. In some cases, zoonotic means they pass from animals to people, okay? And the R0 for humans is between 2 and 3, which is why we can get away with lower vaccine rates, all right? And we hit a herd immunity level around 65%. If we get about 65% of the people vaccinated, most people won't get influenza. I mean, nobody gets influenza. And a bunch of people just ping me, making sure that's not... okay, that is not anything terrible going on. All right, like I'm cutting out. All right, so chickenpox. So I remember I had chickenpox. Boy, it sucked. Chickenpox affects humans. It's actually not a pox virus. Chickenpox is varicella zoster, and it's a variant of herpes virus. And the R0 for that is 3.7 to 5, which you kind of remember, like for all Gen Xers and above, right? When your class of 20 kids, when somebody got chickenpox, right, there were probably 5 or 6 of us that went down with chickenpox. Like, I think my brother got chickenpox, and then I got chickenpox, and a couple of our friends got chickenpox, right? And then my friend's dad got chickenpox, and he didn't have any immunity to it, and he was in the hospital for 2 weeks. So, okay? And so in order for us to have a herd immunity to that, we need 73 to 80% of the population to have some sort of immunity to chickenpox for us to not be transferring it from one to another. All right? Canine distemper virus. If you've never seen distemper virus, it's pretty terrible. It causes neurologic disease in dogs, and it's part of the puppy vaccines. Okay, it's heartbreaking. To see a puppy with parvovirus is absolutely completely heartbreaking. And that has a really low infectious rate. And we have to vaccinate about 50% of our dogs. Now, I was watching some veterinarians, like I was reading on Facebook, veterinarians talking about parvovirus. And parvovirus is a little more infectious than distemper. Okay, it's kind of closer to influenza levels of infection. My first dog that I had when I was as an adult, so we had a dog when I was a kid, but my Mädchen, for my friends on here who remember Mädchen, she came to the animal hospital that I was working at, and she had parvo, okay, and it was heartbreaking, right? There was this dog, and she came in and she was flat out, and I was in Georgia at the time, and we had low levels of vaccination in our dog populations against parvo, and we lost dogs from parvo all the time, and it was a horrifying death, right? Which is why your veterinarians are always after you to vaccinate your dogs, okay, against parvo, because our veterinary hospitals with these low levels of vaccines, I remember we would have weekends in the spring, and it was puppy parvo season, right? And we would have 6 dogs, and we would be there, we would have to have somebody there almost all the time, changing lines, changing puppy pads, trying to make sure that the puppies weren't dying from parvovirus, right? It was horrifying, okay? And then all our feline viruses, so your cats also get inoculated against viruses. These have an infectious rate of slightly below 3%, kind of depending on what they are. And so we need about a 65 to 67% level of immunity in order for cats not to transfer viruses to each other, including feline coronavirus, which is the causative agent of feline infectious peritonitis. Okay, so that gives you some context for some diseases that you have probably heard about. Alrighty, so let's talk about coronavirus. So, COVID-19, the coronavirus we're living with right now, this is the third major coronavirus that we've seen in our human population this century. We had SARS and we had MERS. Okay, this is a novel virus. Coronaviruses, like I talked about last week, are single-stranded RNA viruses. They're enveloped viruses, and they mutate pretty fast, and they have lots of different, most of them have lots of different strains. So this is a novel coronavirus because it is a novel strain of a common kind of virus. All right, this virus is nothing like the flu. Okay, that it is a virus is probably the only thing that they have in common. All right, we have no vaccine in human beings for this. We are unlikely to have a vaccine within, I expect, and a lot of us expect, vaccine rollouts in the next 12 to 18 months, probably closer to 18 months. There's no vaccine, okay? And the R0 of this is 2 to 3. We think, and this is an average, okay? So I really want you guys to understand that it's an average. Because the things that we are seeing where so many people are getting infected in nursing homes is because this is an average. And people in nursing homes have comorbidities. It's like all sorts of people who are sick together. Old age isn't a disease, but an awful lot of old people have a lot of comorbidities, right? And a lot more people will get sick. So right now, we don't even have all the data on this, folks. But this is an average. So it's an average of 2 to 3%. Okay, and so for something with 2 to 3%, we are looking at influenza. That means we have to get 65% of people vaccinated. 65% of people vaccinated. I will tell you, in the town that I live in Cumberland, Maine, the last time I looked, the rates of vaccination for our elementary school for whooping cough maybe reached 75%. Okay? People don't like to vaccinate, and it's going to be a very interesting conversation with people when these coronaviruses vaccinate, or when a coronavirus vaccine comes up. Okay? There is no vaccine, guys. Okay? We maybe have some drugs that may treat some very, very narrow set of people, and that drug isn't in great manufacture. Okay? There's not a whole lot of it being manufactured. One person will get 2 to 3 people sick, but one person may also, depending on that person and where they are and population density, they may get an awful lot more people sick. It might be double this. They might get 4 to 6 people sick, okay, which changes the doubling time and all of that sort of stuff. And this virus has a death rate that we can calculate, all right, an average death rate of between 1.4 and 2.3%. So that's an average, okay? And so there are 331 million people in the United States. And if we end everything right now, okay, and we decide opening up the economy is the thing that is important, okay, and that we are going to allow herd immunity to take effect. There is no herd immunity. Herd immunity doesn't exist. We have no herd immunity level because we don't have a vaccine. And the number of people who have recovered from coronavirus is really quite small, and it's strain specific, and there are signs that people are getting reinfected in China. Okay? And so where does that bring us? It means that 6.62 million people are going to die. Okay? That looks like, if we concentrated it all, 8 in 10 people in the New York tri-state area. All right? So I want you to think of 10 family members. I want you to think of 10 family members, all right, when you guys are really busting against the walls of your cages. I want you to think of the next 10 family members, okay? And I want you to look at the newspaper and all those people who went out protesting, okay? And I want you to see how closely packed in together they were. We think 6 feet isn't even anywhere close to the distance that you need to be apart for coronavirus not to transmit. It is much closer to 25 to 27 feet. All those people crammed in together protesting, right? I want you to take each one of those, and I want you to take yourself and think of 10 family members of yours and 10 family members of theirs. And I want you to bury 3 of them. I want you to pick which 3 are the least important to you. And I want you to say, okay, we're going to say goodbye to those family members. And then you have to do it virtually, because the funeral homes are not open. All right? And that's what we're looking at. So please, guys, the scientists are not lying. All right? We have none of this under control. We are decreasing at we are in some places, hospitalizations and that sort of thing are flattening out. And it looks like, oh my God, we're overreacting. That's the way the system works. We always think that we are overreacting when the worst doesn't happen, okay? And that's very important to keep in mind. We always think that we're overreacting when the worst doesn't happen because we're like, look at all these people who are not getting sick. And that is the entire point, okay? And so when it all gets to be too much, I want you to pick 3 family members that you're willing to put in the ground, and you can't be there for the funeral. Right? Because that's what you're asking. And all those people, I want you to develop some compassion for all of those people that are so frustrated, all right, that they are willing to listen to people who have no science education, okay, who have motives and who can keep themselves safe. Okay? Tucker Carlson has a hell of a lot more money than you or me, right? And he can keep himself safe, right? Poor folks who have no choice but to go to work, okay, and who are depending on the rest of us to stay the hell home, don't have those protections. So, all right, so that's what I want you to think about, okay? I am going to go diving for questions. So pop your questions in, okay? I'm going to go over into the briefing box. So for those of you wondering, it's my Facebook, my private Facebook, right? Ask questions. The dean and so the answer to your question. The answer to your question is, can we use gene editing and all of that sort of stuff? The answer is yes. We eventually can, and but we wouldn't need to for this, because attenuating viruses and making a vaccine is actually fairly simple. We've just got to run them through enough different kinds of bacteria in a way that we can replicate it and make it work. Okay, so CRISPR is like, would be like getting a semi-truck to go do your grocery shopping. It's like way overkill for what we are doing, okay, and what we are doing right now. All right, and so then the second question is, would a stronger microbiome be a factor in why some people react mildly to the virus? So that's a really interesting question, actually, because we don't kind of know. There was some information that came out, and I was kind of hoping I was going to see a couple other people on here, but it looks like JAMA, the Journal of the American Medical Association, published that asthma is actually not a risk factor for coronavirus, which makes me very happy for several people in my life. And so does the microbiome seem to be a factor? We don't know enough, because what's going to be more of a factor is the mucosal immunity from like here to here in people. It's the mucosal immunity of your mouth and your throat and your bronchi and your bronchial tree, your trachea and your bronchial tree. That has its own microbiome, but it also has it's on the inside of you, right? And so it's unsure. We're really unsure. The microbiome always has an effect on it, but what are the positive microbes on it and what are the negative microbes on it? We really kind of don't No. Okay, so I hope that answers that question. Thank you, David, for reposting that. So, but I did want to say that there is evidence this week that asthma is not increasing risk of coronavirus. So I'm extremely happy to hear that because there are plenty of people who I love who have asthma. So, all right, so here's what. So then, okay, getting back to where we were. And talking about why we don't have herd levels of immunity, what's going to happen is that if we don't have a vaccine and we don't have testing, we don't have widespread testing of this, guys. We just don't know. And we reopen and we start interacting with each other. We're back at square one. We're back at square one. Okay, and then we have all of the things that have already gone on. We still don't have enough N95 masks. We still don't have enough of anything, right? And then we have a whole lot more people getting sick, okay? I have been working with people this week around public health responses to high-intensity animal operations, okay, that are not closing down. We've seen a couple close down. But rural, these are places that we don't kill chickens in large volumes in big cities. We kill them in rural places with small hospitals and insufficient public health infrastructure and insufficient paying attention to the public health infrastructure, chronically underfunded public health infrastructure, okay? South Dakota got overwhelmed by the number of cases from that one JBS plant that closed down. Plants like that exist all over the Southeast, and the Southeast is amongst the places least capable of implementing coronavirus responses. Okay, so y'all in the Southeast, I really want you to be careful. Okay. So, all right, David has a question. So, results in international 500 customers without any barriers died. So, out of 500 customers, okay. You're looking at between 5 and 10 of them dying from walking into your store, David. Okay, that's kind of what that looks like, because that's what this level of infection rate looks like. Okay, and that's with no other factors. Okay, and then all of those people that they came into contact with, they would infect other people, right? And of 10 of their family members, 3 family members would die. Okay, so that's what we're looking at. And so I think it's super interesting to have this conversation when we're having conversations about feelings and things like that, and feelings in relationships. Because, here we go, I'm going to draw something out for you. All right, so I've had a ton of people be like, Michelle, why are we talking about feelings? And the reason is because feelings are the reason we do everything, right? And I want to just give you a bit of a visual, okay, around what we call the thought, feel, and act cycle. All right, so we have things that are happening outside of us. Coronavirus is one. All right, homeschooling is one. All right, lunch. I have to tell you they're making lunch downstairs and I'm starving. Okay. These are all things, when I talk about nouns, these are the nouns of our lives. I should make that a soap opera, eh? The nouns of our lives, okay? These nouns, we think about them. Right? When we think about things, we feel. And after we feel, we act. Right? And this is true in our own heads and with our own selves. And so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to invite my special guest who decided to come and join me. So everybody, if you haven't met, this is Molly. So Molly is 8, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to have a birthday in a couple weeks, aren't you?
I think so.
Yeah, you're going to have a birthday in a couple weeks. Okay, and so Molly wanted to come over and be on Facebook Live today. Okay, so everybody's kind of there, and our camera is up there, so you got to look up there.
Ah.
Yeah, okay, so that you're looking in the camera. All right, so pretend Grammaire is on the other side of that camera. All right, and so Molly, let's talk about how this works, like right now, thoughts and feelings and actions. So, what's the easiest thing for you to identify? A thought, a feeling, or an action?
I would say action.
You would say an action is the easiest thing to identify. Okay, so I think that's super interesting.
Like
I think
thought or action.
I think that's true for most of us, right? We can identify. Come here. We can identify our actions first, right? So we identify our actions. So what's an action you did around homeschooling this week?
Like, usually I try to stay calm, but sometimes that doesn't work out so well.
Okay, so calm is a feeling. So this is really, really common when I work with people, not just kids, is that we're pretty terrible at identifying any one of these. And this does make a difference in relationships, I promise. So I'll get you there. Okay, so what's an action that you did? Did you complete all of your work?
Yes, I did that all yesterday.
You did all your work yesterday. Okay. So you did all of your work yesterday, and that's an action, right? Because you were writing, right?
Yeah.
And drawing. There was engineering involved. I forget what you did. Oh, you built a bridge or something yesterday?
Yeah, I had to build a bridge.
Okay, so that was all in action. So let's talk about building a bridge. When you were building that bridge, how did you feel?
Well, like, I was feeling, like, a little excited.
Right.
But I got a little more excited when, the first one, like, it held about, I think, 10 or 20.
10 or 20 pennies?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Okay. And so what was your thought that made you excited? And you told me it.
Oh my god.
It was, I'm finding out how many pennies my bridge holds.
Oh, right.
I'm finding out how many pennies my bridge holds. So that was your thought, and it felt exciting, and so you built a bridge and you put pennies on it. And that was pretty cool, right?
We had to build 3 designs. Ben helped me with the last 2.
Oh, okay. So let's talk about that because we're talking about relationships. So when you were working, so if the action was working with Ben, how did you feel about that?
Well, first of all, I felt pretty happy that he wanted me.
Oh, okay, so that was great. So that was a feeling and a thought. Ben wants to help me. Happy, work with Ben. Right? But Molly, where did that happy occur?
Well, he asked to help me, and I never say no to help.
You never say no to help. I know, but the happy, where was the happy? Why were you happy?
Well, I was in a good mood, first of all, that my first bridge worked.
So my first bridge worked. So that's another thought, another feeling, another action. So Ben wants to help me, and that felt?
Good.
Good. Okay, so why did you feel good?
Because Ben wanted to help me.
Because you had the thought Ben wanted to help you. That's exactly right. So what I'm pointing out is that our thoughts create our feelings, and all of our relationships occur 100% within us. Okay? And so last week when we talked about telling the truth of your relationships, and I had some really good questions this week about the truth of our relationships, okay, and what is reality around relationships. And most everybody is overcomplicating it, okay? So reality is here, Molly is my daughter, and I am her. Those are the nouns. Mother, daughter are the nouns, okay? Molly is brilliant and amazing. That's a thought that I have, and that feels really, really good, right? That feels really, really good. But the thought, okay, so now, as I embarrass the snot out of my kid, right, she has a thought. So Mommy says Molly is, what did I say, beautiful and amazing, intelligent and amazing, Smart and amazing. I don't know the word amazing. How about we just go with Molly is amazing?
That's easier to remember.
Okay, so when you hear the words, when Molly hears the words, Molly is amazing, all of a sudden that actually goes in nouns, right? And what's your thought about Molly is amazing?
Sometimes I don't really usually pay attention to my thoughts.
Okay, so how did you feel? You had a very immediate reaction when I said that.
That would be embarrassment.
So you felt embarrassed, all right? And your thought was something about, like, what do these people think, right?
Part of it, my embarrassment my thought might have been, oh no, not again.
Oh no, not again, right? And then you felt embarrassed, and then you cringed, like your head went down. We can look at it on the camera. Your head went down, and you cratered in your body a little bit to protect yourself, right? And all of that happened because of one thought, right?
It's amazing what thoughts can do.
Right? It's amazing what thoughts can do. And the reality of mother and daughter didn't change. The reality of my words can't change because my words were in the past. And so a lot of times what happens when we're telling ourselves the truth of our relationships is we're telling ourselves stories of our past, and we're not separating out the nouns, and we're not treating the words as if they can't change. We're often going about it and saying, well, they should change. Okay? They should change. Okay? So Ben's having a fit over something or another because probably he's ready for lunch. Right? And I can be thinking, Ben shouldn't be crying and carrying on while Mommy's on a Facebook Live. All right? Or I could be thinking, Ben is crying and carrying on. Because Ben is actually, in fact, well, maybe now he's stopped, but is crying and carrying on. And the question is we look at our relationships with each other and we look at our relationship with ourselves. There is so much should that we dive into, okay? And we think we are telling ourselves the truth when we say should. We think we are telling ourselves the truth and we're reporting the news, okay? When I say, like, so for example, Ben is crying and carrying on. I think I'm reporting the news because it feels very factual to me. But if I asked Ben the same thing, what do you think Ben would say? About the fit he's throwing down there. Would you say I would think he would say, I'm just trying to get whatever it is that he's trying to get. Okay, and so the thing is his little boy doing the same thing very different. So what I want to point out is that, and I think we can see this, all relationships, all right, occur in the thoughts of the people in the relationship, okay? There is not some thought that they have together. Person one has thoughts and person two has thoughts. All right? Every single time for every single relationship. And your relationship with yourself, okay, if you believe in a self, all right, not everybody believes in a self. In Buddhist theory and practice, the self doesn't exist. That's nirvana, right? That the only thing that you can do to affect any relationship is work on yourself. And the way you work on yourself is you feel your own feelings, okay? And feeling your own feelings around relationships doesn't mean vomiting your feelings on other people. That is often resisting your feelings. And as I was working on this with Zach today, we were talking, and he's going, he's 12, he's going through a lot of stuff, and you're going through a lot of stuff.
I'm the youngest of 3 kids.
Right?
3 kids.
3 kids, right? And we have our feelings, but what nobody ever ever teaches our kids, and what nobody ever taught us, okay, is that not only do our thoughts create our feelings, but all of this stuff is like optional, but we don't know that it's optional because we're so afraid of it, right? We think our thoughts are the news and that our feelings are inevitable, and they're not. So, back when we were first starting all of this, I introduced the idea that when we think something, okay, we then follow it up, especially if it leads to an incredibly intense emotion. That thought may or may not be true, okay? It may or may not be true that Ben is hungry. It may or may not be true. All right, what's a thought of yours that may or may not be true?
I hate my life. That's one of the thoughts I have a lot.
That's a thought that you have a lot, right? And when you are having that thought, how would it be? Okay, so that is a thought about your relationship with yourself and the outside world. And so if you think, after you think, I hate my life, and you say, brain, that thought may or may not be true. How's that? Like, tell me about that.
I don't usually think that, but if I did, it would probably say that is not true, since some things I get if I ask, and some things I don't, and I just have to deal with that.
Right, and does that feel like a lot of relief, maybe?
Well, I've never really asked myself that.
So why don't we practice that this week?
Oh.
That thought may or may not be true. Okay, and when you decide that a thought may or may not be true, and then you give yourself permission to feel. Okay, so today we talked with Zach and talked with the kids a lot about giving ourselves permission to feel all of our negative emotions and giving ourselves permission to feel all of our positive emotions. Okay, and when we allow equal airtime to the positive emotions and the negative emotions, and we remember that our feelings are not going to kill us, okay, that's when we start developing a really solid relationship with ourselves, and it really is all based on these feelings and understanding that feelings are just sensations in our body created by thoughts, and we can feel all of our feelings, all right? So look at the truth that you looked at in your relationship and see how many nouns you wrote down in your thought downloads and see how many thoughts you wrote down that may or may not be true, okay? Because next week, and I guess starting tomorrow, we are going to start looking at results and start saying, okay, if we have these thoughts and feelings, we are present to them and we accept them, and we agree we are sufficient and that we are 100% lovable, and we are 100% worthy, and none of that is questionable. What do we do next? And that's what we're going to dive in tomorrow. All right, so do you have anything else you want to add, Margaret? Not really. All right, well, thank you so much for being on Mommy's Facebook Live. Thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed Science Saturday and you enjoyed talking about all the feelings. This is a learned and learnable skill. I promise you, I learned how to do it. I teach my kids how to do it. I teach all of my clients how to do it. All right, and you are amazing people. I love you all, and I really, really mean that. And we'll see you back at noon tomorrow. Bye, guys. Say bye-bye.
Bye.